those small group leaders and families that want to use this wonderful material to grow closer as a family, here are some questions and things for you to ponder this week in response to the message. So first of all, I want to encourage you to reread the scripture. It was from Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 through 14. Again, parents, this is a really hard scripture, so if you're not sure that your young ones are ready for it, maybe it's just for you and your partner to discuss this week. But also think about the testing. So we're told that Abraham was tested by God in this scripture. So when have you heard people use that phrase, well, maybe God's testing you? Have you ever used that phrase to a friend or a family member who is going through something tragic? Or how did it feel when someone said that to you in response to a tragedy you were experiencing? We know it's often one of those platitudes that we are told that often offers little relief. And so how can we reframe things? I lifted up in the message Job chapter 2, verses 11 through 13 as a good way to respond to tragedy, and so encourage us to model that, to just go and sit and be with people as they experience something so tragic. Not try to offer those platitudes or say that we know what they're feeling or going through, but instead just sit and weep with them and hold them, as often that's what's needed. But we know that God does use different things that happen to us for God's good. Sometimes good can come out of it, sometimes it can't. We, of course, don't know what's from God and what isn't from God, so it's not for us to say, yes, this is a test from God, or no, this isn't. We do know from Scripture, though, that God is trying to bring good from everything. And so even through COVID-19, we see God trying to bring good. Now, there's also a lot of bad. Over 100,000 people have lost their lives to COVID-19. We're not finished yet. This week has been really hard for states that have reopened. I think Florida had a record number of cases in one day and in several days. And so we see that we're not out of the woods yet. But for those of us who maybe haven't had a loved one come down with COVID-19, who've been blessed in that way and just lucky, maybe God is showing us other things. Maybe it's been a great pause for your family, a great time to reset. Maybe it's been a wonderful time to reconnect with your children. Maybe you're doing puzzles. Maybe you're playing games. Maybe you're just having a lot of family time, whether welcome or unwelcome. But maybe you've used this time in wonderful ways to grow closer as a family and grow closer with your spouse and with your children as well. So what is God trying to bring good from? How is God trying to show you what maybe shouldn't come back once our new normal is established? Are there things you just need to let go of, or maybe not work as hard, or maybe not take up as many sports? What are things that you can implement so that when things are in our new normal, you are able to still have this carved out time for you and your family and God? So I encourage you to think about what God might be trying to show you in this time. How might this challenge affect us forever too? We think about how in this story from Genesis that I'm sure Isaac was affected forever. And so how might this time affect us forever? I shared in the sermon about my grandfather who lived through the Great Depression and how that affected everything up until the day he passed away. He did different things than what I was used to. And now I kind of start to understand why he might have done that. So what are things that you might implement in your life? Are there things you make sure you never go low on? As soon as you can find it and plentiful, you stock up? I love a show on Netflix called Doomsday Preppers. And so they all have their bug out bags. And so maybe you have a kind of a COVID-19 bag that you're always ready for if it resurges or another virus hits us. So what are you going to do differently? Because I do think God uses these things to teach us things. I know I'm a person who wrestles with anxiety, so knowing that one thing is taken care of kind of frees my mind to focus on other things. So good things for us to think about. And then we see that Abraham faithfully listens to God and the angel of the Lord in that moment before he is about to do something he can't undo. The angel of the Lord steps in and says, do not do that. So how can we faithfully listen? Because Abraham trusted that God would somehow provide. God promised that Abraham would be the father to more descendants than the stars in the sky. And so he knew that one of his sons was going to have to live and get married and produce children in order for that to happen. And so we see that happening. But as we see too in the scripture, Abraham didn't know the full story. He only knew small pieces. And so sometimes that's often how God leads us. God gives us very small pieces and not the whole story. So look back at your life. How has God used circumstances? Maybe you were so upset that a job didn't pan through like you thought, but then it led to an even better job. Or maybe you didn't get into the perfect college that you'd wanted, but you got into another school and it led to more opportunities than you might have had. Now, of course, we don't know what would have happened had the other things happened, but we trust that God was in even those small details. So I encourage you as a family to look at, what are the little steps that led up to you all becoming a family, to you meeting your partner. How did those things happen? And how do you see God at work in all of those little details? And then what is God telling you now? What is God revealing to you now? What are things that you need to take up? What are things you need to put down? I shared that Sabbath has taken on new importance, and especially time away from technology, as I feel like I'm always using it and always in front of it. So what is God telling you through your exhaustion, through your frustration, through your crankiness, through whatever? What is God telling you and showing you so that we can also faithfully see and faithfully listen? And friends, I'm praying for fruitful conversations and time for you to dive deeper into the scripture, but also for you to dive deeper into your relationship with God. And I'm always here for you. I don't have all the answers, especially to this story, but we can look at them together. All right, friends, have a blessed day.